Welcome, guys, to ILWPOD. I'm your host, Justin Wright. Today, I'm here with Australian star Mike Kaos. How are you doing today, man?
Yeah, doing good, man. It's 11 o'clock, 10:56 to be exact, at night in Victoria, Australia right now. How is it over in Texas over there?
I'm in Chicago, but
Chicago.
it's early. It's cold. Um, just woke up. I'm excited to be here, though.
Wonderful, man. Wonderful.
Um, you know, I like to start off by just getting the social medias and all the plugs out of the way. So you got any social medias or upcoming events, t-shirts, any of that stuff you want to plug, let people know where to get them?
Uh, so in Thomastown, we've got Alpha Pro Wrestling. I'll be fighting Slade Mercer for the Alpha Pro Heavyweight Championship on December 12th. We'll be in a last man standing. So if anybody's in that area, if anybody's listening from Australia, uh, get down and see the show of a lifetime there. And we have a show I've got my little planner here. Um, the 30th of November in Geelong, the MXW All for One event. That's their yearly, like their WrestleMania event, so to speak. Down at the Geelong West Hall. I'll be taking on a Shaq in the MXW Ascend Championship match. I don't know what it's going to be yet, though, so that's a surprise for me. Um, Socials, Instagram, the Mike Kaos, Mikekaos. Same thing for Facebook. There's a Twitter there, but I don't use it often. If you want me, reach me on Instagram. And yeah, there's t-shirts, there's hoodies, there's all kinds of merchandise. Just message me on Instagram, as I said just before, and I can help you out with any of those queries. But yeah, um, anything else there that I should put
No,
in
it's
there?
perfect, perfect, and
Beautiful.
I'll give links to all of it, make it really easy, make
Thank
it
you.
accessible. um,
Thank you.
the other thing I always start off with is the generic first interview question for wrestling is, when did you know or when did you like start watching wrestling?
The humble beginnings.
Yeah, I like to start
uh,
early.
Beautiful, beautiful. The first match I can ever remember, I might have been 3, 4 years old, and my dad was watching. I think it was a Raw, and it was Stone Cold taking on the Undertaker in a Buried Alive match.
Okay.
And my dad had obviously heard the advertisement for it or something and thought, that's ridiculous, and turned it on because he's like, let's see someone get buried alive. And I'm sitting there on the couch watching along, and kind of that provided the spark for pro wrestling that myself needed to kind of pursue it a little bit further. Um, the first match I consciously remember watching was it was a Raw. I was at a family friend's house, and the parents are all talking, and they're like, "Go use the TV." Sweet. So wrestling's on. I go check it out. Bang. And John Cena's taking on Chris Jericho in a "You're Fired" match.
Okay.
The loser gets fired from Raw, and they left to leave the company. That was when Chris Jericho took his little hiatus from wrestling, but little me didn't realize that, and legitimately thought Cena was going to lose the belt to Chris Jericho in those moments. So I vividly remember sitting there going, "No, he can't lose, he can't lose." Obviously, popping when he did win, and then it was any chance I could find of wrestling, any DVDs, any VHSs, talk about it at school, who's got the action figures, this, that, the other. I couldn't get enough of it. So my cousin, um, he's not with us now. He tragically passed away. He had a heart attack. Um, him and his father were the biggest wrestling fans I could ever find. They had every single action figure, every single DVD, every single moment, picture, piece of history that pro wrestling could provide, they somehow had in their home. And it was all signed and everything. They were just the biggest fans of wrestling. So one day they're like, "We'll come down to our place. We've got the Royal Rumble. We've bought it on pay-per-view. We're going to watch it all together. Let's draw names out of a hat and have a good time out of it, kind of thing." Um, 2006 Royal Rumble, the year that Rey Mysterio won the Royal Rumble. Came in from second, lasted over an hour. The whole time, me and my cousin are holding each other like this at every near attempt of Rey Mysterio because we're 8 years old and the masked wrestler is really cool. So uh, that was the first pay-per-view that I got to watch in my life. And what a pay-per-view to watch. And that from that point on, I was addicted.
Okay. Do you remember your first live event?
My first live event, yes. It was so my family weren't well off.
Okay.
We struggled through life and we made the most of what we got. We were always grateful for what we had, but I didn't get to see a live event until I was maybe 19 years old.
Okay.
And I'm 28 now. So, excuse me. It hasn't even been 10 years since I've seen my first live event. And that was a tour of Australia, uh, the WWE live events. So I don't think they were even Raws or anything. It was just a house show event that they do around Australia. And to be fair, I could not remember a match from it if I could be honest. It was very house show WWE. They're doing the safe stuff. They're not going crazy. I just remember my two cousins telling me that Randy Orton was working safe. Like they were telling me the lingo at the time. They're like, "All right, he's working house show style." I'm like, "What do you mean by that? Like, why don't they just go hard?" Like, no, they do this like 300 days a year. Oh shit, that's a lot of dates. So the one I can remember, um, NXT came to Melbourne, and it
Okay.
was Nakamura versus Joe.
I remember that.
Yeah, the steel cage.
Yep.
Um, that's the one I can remember, and I think that was the second event I'd ever seen. And yeah, that was a great event. I remember multiple matches from that. Only Lorcan, Biff Busick versus Velveteen Dream. Like, and I didn't know those two dudes from a bar of soap when they walked in, but as soon as I saw Only Lorcan, because I'm like, who's Only Lorcan in my mind? Because I didn't see Biff get picked up, and I just see him do this, stick the finger up, and I'm like,
Yep.
that's Biff! No way! Instant pop, like first or second match on the card. And then, of course, it ended on the steel cage with Nakamura and Joe. Yeah, that's for a second event. I was like, oh, all right. I picked a good one.
Yep. I've been to one NXT event and it was Takeover Chicago. Um,
Ooh, that would have been a good one
with
to go to.
with with Tyler Bate versus Pete Dunne.
Yeah, that was an
It was
insano match.
amazing. It was amazing. And then I got to see DIY turn, the famous DIY turn. I was there.
How was it? Being able to be part of that crowd, like being
It's
a part of the
insane.
Chicago crowd in general, like that's
It's completely insane. You can't hear yourself think. You can't hear yourself react. Um, and I think it's the way the building is. because I've been to two different arenas in Chicago. I've been to the United Center, which is downtown, and then the Allstate
Yep.
Arena, or the Rosemont Horizon, whatever you want to call it. But the Rosemont is wooden, so like the roof's wood. So everything that when anytime you scream, it goes up and it comes right back down. So it has nowhere to
Bounces.
escape. So
Yeah.
it's intense. And like just recently I went to a SmackDown where Jacob Fatu debuted. And
Oh wow.
and that's where Punk got beat up by McIntyre. And
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
never heard a crowd so angry in my life. Like if we were
yeah.
able to, I'm sure we all would have beat the shit out of Drew McIntyre.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Especially for CM Punk, the Chicago
Yes,
crowd goes wild.
insane. I never got to see him in AEW in Chicago, which is something that I wish I would have been able to. I didn't I wasn't able to, but
Yeah,
it's still surreal, definitely.
yeah. It's one of those things where it's one of those once in a lifetime moments with pro wrestling. You know, how many times did you get to see Hulk Hogan in the yellow and red? You know, doing
Exactly.
his thing, putting the hand to the ear, and how many times did you get to see Stone Cold stick the fingers up and
And the glass shatter.
exactly right. You know, like they're timeless moments in wrestling. And if you're a part of that live crowd in that moment, then it's a moment that lives with you forever.
100%. And it's the reason I do this, the reason I have the conversation is just that feeling, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, it is because even though I've been in the business now for we're getting on 8 years now. Um, I still have those moments and those feelings of being a fan, like where, uh, I'm sure this would have been a question later, and I'll talk about it later on, but you put on Mike Awesome versus Masato Tanaka, ECW One Night Stand 2005, and I'm glued to the TV and popping for every moment like I've watched it. Never. Like I've never
Hmm.
watched it. So, like those moments and those feelings are what keeps the fire burning in even the most grizzled of veterans. They still have those moments where it ignites the fire in them and it keeps them doing what they're doing.
100%. Um, I guess to carry on with the wrestling, how did you get your start actually to become training and to get into the business?
Ah, awesome. Great, great question. This one might ramble on. I like
You're good. You're good.
beauty, beauty. So 2017, I started wrestling, but I contacted the man who eventually trained me in December 2016. And it's only because my cousin, the one I spoke about before, he'd just gotten a bunch of replica championship belts and had them leathered by a belt maker. And I got in contact with the belt maker and asked him, hey, do you know anyone that does pro wrestling training? Like I really want to get into it. And, I'd kind of gone through a bit of I was 19, 20 at this point, and I'd kind of had a turbulent 4 or 5 years of teenage, early adolescence. Um, so I needed something to preoccupy my mind, and I needed something to focus me and bring some discipline and some structure into my life. So I hit up this belt maker out of a whim, and he goes, "Oh yeah, I'm actually thinking about making my own company uh, soon." I'm like, "No way! Like, are you for real? Like, did I just hit the jackpot? Did I just summon the law of attraction to bring me what I needed?" Um, so I keep in contact with him, and I go, "Well, I have two best friends that I've been wrestling with since primary school. We used to just wrestle in the, like in on the oval. We just used to wrestle each other and hit each other with moves and stuff. We've all been lifelong wrestling fans. We all will train immediately. So a bit of biff and baff went on, and he had some difficulties getting his ring down to where he needed it to, and we were all young and ignorant and just like pressuring him the whole time. Like, man, where's your ring? Like, what's going on? We need to trade. So he finally gets his ring down. He sets it all up, and we walk in April 2017 is the first training session I had for Adrenaline Pro Wrestling, and my head trainer was Jason Crash in the wrestling world.
Okay.
Um, and then 3 months went by. We trained 3 days, 4 days a week. Um, and it was rough, it was an upstart company. The ring was in terrible shape. It, it was obviously, steel, wood, and then instead of any sort of padding or matting, we had those jigsaw squares that you
Okay.
sometimes see on the outside of the ring. We had those as padding. And then we had a tarp. We didn't have a ring mat. We had a tarp, like a just those things that you put over a car to keep it out of
Yep.
the rain. We had one of those tied down to the ring,
Oh boy.
and no like no proper ropes. Like of course not. It's cable or like the wiring with
Hmm.
PVC pipe and duct tape.
Oh,
No padding.
that's rough. That's rough.
Yeah. And we loved it. We loved every second of it. I've still got scars on my back from those ropes, but we loved we loved every second of it. And me and my best friends, as I said, we've known each other since primary school. And every time we would catch up, anytime we would do anything, it was we're going to be wrestlers. We're going to be this. We're going to do that. We're fighting a TLC for the tag titles at WrestleMania. That was the dream that we had when we were younger. So the fact that we were in a ring, hitting the ropes, taking bumps, practicing the moves that we'd always wanted to practice without a trampoline underneath us, it was the best feeling in the world. It was something that you can only have once, but again, it stays with you forever. And like I'll never forget those early day sessions of we come in one week and the ropes are padded now, and then we come in another month, and then now there's actual padding and a ring mat, and it's we're seeing the evolution and the evolving of what we had to what we are now. Yeah, like some of the most fond memories that I have there. It was we didn't even have a training facility. We trained in, yeah, and this is I hope this doesn't come off the wrong way because our head trainer was professionally trained. He trained at PCW uh,
Okay.
in Victoria, but we trained in somebody's backyard. Quite literally, we had the ring set up in somebody's backyard, and we used to pay $20 every session to go to this person's backyard and take bumps. And they would give us spaghetti and chicken burgers and stuff like. But it kind of built this culture and this family feeling that we're all in this backyard eating the same chicken burgers, taking the same bumps, and it built this bond that we had. We had a guy that was a scaffold guy. He used to put up scaffolds,
Okay.
and he had a bunch of all this old scaffolding stuff at his house, and he had nothing to do with it. And we were sick of training in the rain.
Hmm.
Getting rained on, there's no roof, so he built this like hell in a cell out of scaffolding, and then we someone was selling some giant tarps on Facebook Marketplace. and we got the tarps and we put it over the top of the Hell in a Cell to make a makeshift roof so that we could train while it rained.
Okay, that's
So we,
crazy.
yeah, so we got super crafty and we got super creative, and all of these limitations caused us to either find a way around it or
Mhm.
eliminate it somehow. And then, yeah, it slowly built and slowly built, and then eventually we got a factory, a facility, to be able to train without the elements attacking us. But yeah, like those first 6 to 8 months where you're walking in and you're taking a back bump and it feels like you're taking the right move, like the right movement towards it. But then the trainer goes, no, that's not how you do it at all. So you spend weeks and weeks and weeks going, I will get this. I will master this simple, basic action. And it became infectious. It became a thing that I would study after training, before training. Those early times are a fond memory that I have.
What's it like being in a ring made of, tarps and cables versus a normal, actual ring? Like what's the difference in working in the two?
So I didn't realize it until later on when I'd started working for a few more promotions and I'd had a feel for different types of rings.
Okay.
At first, we didn't mind. We were just happy to be in a ring. Um, excuse me. But as time went on and we got the padding and we got everything else, and we're kind of looking at our backs and they're all scarred up from all the actions that we'd been doing, and it was night and day how much better it was and how many more, not to say risks, but how many more new creative things we could try, knowing that we're not just plummeting into jigsaw mats.
Definitely.
It's definitely a better feeling. And while I was 20 at the time, I have to remember that. So I felt invincible, and I'm not gonna. I could have taken anything on that ring, but if I did it now, oh God, I think I'd take one bump and just be like, "Nah, I'm out of here, man."
Okay. Um, where or not where? What's it like trying to come up with a character in wrestling? Like, what's it
Sure.
like trying to become Mike Chaos?
So did you want a rundown of like how the character became, or just how do I become the character?
How about both? We'll go both.
Done, done. All right, so to start off on what you were saying, it's really, really fucking hard to create a character that's compelling and interesting and resonates with the audience. Like I think that's one of the hardest parts about wrestling, at least for myself. The wrestling side of it, uh, you can do over and over and slowly become better at it because you're being repetitious. But to create a character that you feel is you, but also something that's cool, and it's cool is a subjective word, but something that resonates with the audience. I think it's one of the hardest things in the world. But uh, again, my cousin that had passed away actually was the man who created the Mike Chaos name.
Okay.
You might get a little bit of a pop out of it because you're a Chicago guy, but I was in the car with him. He was taking me. We were driving somewhere, and I'm trying to figure out a name. I'm like, I want something like CM Punk. I want a last name that's not a last name. I want it to be a word. Uh, and I'm like, what could it be? And he's like, what about Mike Chaos? And I went, that's the stupidest name I've ever heard. Like, no way, dude. No way. And then we're bouncing back and forth on names, and I'm sitting there for a few minutes, and I'm like, actually, Mike Chaos has a kind of has a ring to it. Like I like the chaos, like the chocolatiness of the ending of the name. I'm like, okay, we can maybe work with this.
It has a flow to it.
Yes, yes. And truth be told, I thought it was going to be a temporary thing for me. I thought, oh, yeah, no, I'll come up with something better in my mind, and off we'll go. But yeah, I took the name and then went, okay, so I've got to be a chaotic personality. I've got to be, a bit unhinged, a bit, merciless, a bit methodical in the actions that I take. So how can I portray that in my character, in my personality? Uh, I early on, I was quite stage fright. Um, so the character didn't have much beyond wearing a mask that covered most of my face, and looking angry. That was about it. um, but the the character evolved over time. I picked up new things and I saw cool things that were happening, and I was like, oh, okay, we'll see how it goes. But the most difficult thing I reckon is coming up with a character that can resonate because I came in as a heel originally, so I thought, okay, I'll just be everything that I hate, and
Okay.
that'll be something. But portraying yourself as a baby face, you need to change the script and be be something, as I said, that the fans are interested in. Um, so that was probably the hardest thing was making a character that could ebb and flow and go both ways. Um, but the chaos character has morphed over the years to uh, a much healthier version of itself. Um, I think as a lot of people do, they everybody has and I don't want this to come off the wrong way, but everybody has demons in their life. Everybody has things that they've gone through and things that, whether it be severe or not, it's things that they go through and things that are important to them. So at first, it was a way of releasing some of the anger and some of the things that had happened in my life out into a character that I can control.
Yeah.
Um, but because I'm not in that headspace, I'm not in that mentality anymore. Uh, I had taken a break from wrestling because of this for about 18 months, and when I came back, I kind of had to reinvent the character because all of those things that I was doing, I didn't feel anymore. So it's a weird thing of having to have something stable, but also having the interpretation to be able to open it up to new things.
Okay. So like a fun question, I guess, is like, what do you prefer, working babyface or heel?
Ooh, you got to the tough ones now. The tough questions have come out.
Well, my thought process here, okay, behind the question is you said you started as a heel. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
most guys I interview are like it's just easier to go in as a white meat baby face. Like you're green, people don't know you. It's just easier to dive in. Fans, especially kids, attract to the person with I don't want to say a bland personality, but like you're just learning the character, stuff like that. So
Yeah.
like going in heel is like jumping in head first.
Yeah, straight into the deep end. Uh, um, excuse me. That goes back to the uh, infancy of the company that I started with. You know, they needed the numbers on the show, and it just so happened that I got thrown into the deep end. They needed a bad guy, so all right, I'll play a bad guy.
Okay.
You have to learn quick, otherwise, you kind of get fed to the sharks. Um, Babyface is, I was going to say funner, but it's not. Being a heel is way more fun. Uh, I think the thing I love about being a babyface the most is being able to just go like, yeah, woo, to all the fans all around the arena, and just putting your hand up and doing one of these, like, come on, guys, like, get up, and they're all like, yes, get up. That's the that's why I love being a babyface. It could be an egotistical thing in the mind. I don't know, but it's always nice having people cheer and support you. But there's nothing better than being a heel and taking that away from everybody. Like, I think
Okay.
to answer your question, I'm going to have to choose heel. I'm going to have to
Okay.
choose heel. It
That's
is
also everybody's answer. Everybody loves being a heel way more. It might just be easier to be hated.
way easier, way easier. Everybody's got a dick that they know that just pisses them off beyond no belief. And if you can be that person in the ring for them, you it elicits the most vile reactions from them.
I went. I used to go. My first like memories of a house show or an independent show was I know I mentioned off camera Madman Pondo. Um, he had IWA East Coast in West Virginia, which is where I'm from. But we'd go to shows around there, and the crowds there at them little shows are insane. My dad, with a couple beers in him, would say the foulest things to him, and you'd think they'd all be about to fight. Because a lot of times, the two guys I remember from those shows the most were probably Batman Pondo and then Too Tough Tony.
Yeah, yeah.
Those were two guys that were always there. Um, but my dad would troll them the whole time. He would call Too Tough Tony, call him Teabag Tony, and have him ready to fight. It was always a great time, but trolling the heels is always, I mean, as a crowd member, it's always so fun.
Oh, dude, I've got the best story for that. So I'm a year and a half into my career, and I'm starting to build the confidence, and yeah, put a microphone in my hand. Why not? Let's do this. Yeah, I've cut one promo before this, and it went all right. So let's start juicing up the confidence. And I get out there, and I can't remember exactly what I said. We sadly don't have the footage there. Otherwise, I'd be watching it over and over for the rest of my life. But I was supposed to say something ending in like speak, like the word speak. Like I see. I can't even remember what I was saying, but it ended on that, and um, you know, speak out kind of thing. But I said spoke instead, and immediately my roommate's brother, who was down watching him um, at the show because he's a wrestler as well, goes, "Who taught you to spoke?" And I'm a year and a half in. I've never had anybody heckle me like that before, let alone so well that I didn't have anything back to throw
Yeah.
at him. And I'm just kind of froze up. I'm like, and I said something and somehow got moving. That stopped me on the microphone for 4 years. I didn't touch a microphone after, after the match, the adrenaline's running in me. Yeah, whatever. I'll cut a little promo at the end of the match. I'm not doing nothing before the show. No way. I don't know how to spoke.
That's crazy. Um, something.
You are you. Sorry to cut you off, but you are absolutely right. That's the best part is seeing if you can crack the heels.
Oh yeah,
Throwing something at them. And upstairs like your dad was great at it.
it's like going to a comedy show or something like that and trying to throw off the guy on stage.
100%. 100%.
I was gonna bring up, lately there's been a lot of Australian talent, coming over to the States or traveling uh around the world and getting signed and getting their names out there. Does What's that like to be from Australia, a place that I've heard doesn't get a lot of recognition for wrestling, and now seeing them get, what they deserve? You got like Rhea Ripley on Raw, Bronson Reed on Raw, Buddy Matthews on AEW. Like, what's that like?
It's a wonderful feeling, honestly, because growing up, that was all I ever wondered. Where are the Australian wrestlers? We had Nathan Jones at WrestleMania 19. That's really the only Australian that I can remember just off the top of my head in my lifespan. Those are the only Australians that I can remember up until that global expansion that WWE did, where they
Mhm.
went into the UK and they went into Australia and a bunch of places to try and scout out talent. Um, it's a great feeling because now the younger generation get to watch Australian wrestlers on the biggest platform, and it gives them a sense of I can do that too. I can make it to the WWE, and it's fantastic for all us workers because it's added incentive and as I was talking about earlier, a bigger flame, to the ones that want it. It's achievable now. For the longest, growing up my whole life, I didn't even think it was achievable unless you moved over to the States and became a US citizen and then did it the hard way. But it's great to see that the talent that we have in Australia is being noticed and being given the opportunity that Australians deserve.
Would you say it's a goal of yours to eventually go out and work like in the States and maybe try to get signed?
Oh, look, I'd love to work the States. It's a bucket list, got a dream goal, whatever we want to call it. The United States, Mexico, and Japan are the three go-tos that I want. If I'm, excuse me, if I'm traveling and I'm going overseas, those are the three places that I want to hit. And if I hit them and never go anywhere else, I'd be happy. So
Okay.
the United States is definitely a place that I'd like to go to. But if I had the opportunity to, if WWE turned around to me while I was in the States and went, here's a contract for the developmental center. Come down for 6 months, try it out, and if you're good enough, we'll sign you. I'm 100% taking that 10 out of 10, 1,000 universes over. Like, I am, before they could even finish it, I'm signing the paper, you know?
100%.
To be a wrestler on TV, regardless, AEW, WWE, TNA, any of these big time, the big shows, if you want to call it, uh, definitely a dream of mine. But at the same time, I'm realistic in where I'm at, with my age and with um, everything that goes on in day to day life and everything that's part of the world, really. It's becoming a do or die situation. I either do it now or it's an opportunity that misses itself, and I'd be okay with that. But you know, if we're talking dreams and goals, absolutely. I'd love to be WrestleMania. Like, I'd love that. Are you kidding me?
Gotcha. 100%.
Yeah, buy the DVD and see my name on the back. I know we don't do DVDs anymore, but you know what I mean.
Yep. Being on the network forever would be insane.
Yeah, yeah. Like, hey, look, there's my name right there. You don't need to watch
Uh,
the match. It's all good, but
yeah. My name's there.
yeah.
Um, I was, what was I gonna say? Mind blank. No,
A bit of a brain
uh,
fart.
a little bit. Um, I was gonna say, in wrestling, there's many stipulations, many match types. You mentioned you're in a last man standing coming up at the end of the year. What would you
Yep.
say, like, are your favorite matches to be involved in and your least favorite matches to be involved in?
Hmm. Are we? Yeah, I'll keep it just strictly pro wrestling. Because I've dabbled with death matches in the past. I'm certainly not like I know Joel Bateman personally. I'm certainly not putting myself on the level of Joel Bateman at all, or any of our fantastic deathmatch wrestlers in Australia. I think everything that they do is extraordinary. Like it's one of the coolest things that I can say I watch in wrestling in a long time. But Um, I'll keep it just pro wrestling because, to be fair, a lot of that stuff I don't like anyway.
I respect it.
But favorite? Oh, as a fan or as a worker?
Go both.
All right. As a fan, the original Elimination Chamber.
Okay.
Yeah, the steel chains and the shitty outside part that looked like it killed every time you landed on it.
Yep.
Um, and the pods that got exploded when people went through them.
I'm a
That's
round
the
pod guy. I like the round pods way better than the
yeah.
square ones. The new chamber
That's
looks way more appealing, like as an
and is
audience member, but the old chamber just looked like it would have sucked. Like those six
it
guys walking in looked like they walked in hell.
exactly yeah, it looked like the final boss of wrestling stipulations.
Yep.
You know, it was
Like how
like,
you top this? Hell in the Cell is crazy, but you
yeah,
walk into a
yeah.
chamber with six guys. Oh shit!
Yeah, and you got five other people to worry about too, like, and that's what I mean. It's like ladder match, then steel cage, then Hell in a Cell, and then finally, it's like the secret level
Yep.
is the Elimination Chamber. At least for me, anyway. That original chamber was the best. SummerSlam 2003 when Goldberg just ran havoc through everything and just destroyed everybody and then got hit in the head with a sledgehammer. But I don't need to remember that part. I just remember the 10 minutes of Goldberg killing everybody.
My
uh,
favorite one, I'm not gonna lie, was the one with Angle in it.
yeah, that was a really good one too.
That
That
one,
was
I don't know what it was.
2006.
Six? Yeah.
The Cena's the one where New Year's Revolution.
Yep. Where I want to say that's the one where Edge cashed in after.
Edge cashed in. Yeah.
I want to say yeah. And Cena was
That
drenched in blood.
yeah, Crimson Mass he was.
Yeah. What about least favorite? Least favorite match type?
Uh, favorite match is a worker as
Oh,
well.
my bad.
No, 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 you're good. You're good. I haven't wrestled one, but a steel cage. I'd love to work a steel cage.
Is that it's a
Just
dream?
yeah, it is. It's one of those things where I'm not quitting wrestling until I wrestle in a steel cage at least once.
I'd assume in 7, almost 8 years in the business, you've been on a card with a steel cage.
Believe it or not, no,
No. Okay. I was gonna say,
no.
what does a steel cage in Australia look like? Is it like, what
I
you see
look.
on
It
TV,
looks
or
like
is it like NWA? We're talking Harley Race, Ric Flair looking steel cage.
about 3 to 4 big bags of money with the S symbol on it. Like I'd say they're expensive.
Okay.
So not a lot of people have cages, unfortunately. But the cages that we do have are more. I think the one that I'm thinking of anyway. I think WWF, the blue barred
Okay.
one, but it's black.
So y'all got like
Um,
the Attitude Era blue bar cage.
Pretty much, yeah, but
Got you.
as a black bar
As a black
cage,
one. Okay.
and then there's a couple of others that have the more stereotypical cage, the one with the chain.
Chain link.
Um, yeah, but yeah, there's not a lot around, especially. Yeah, I'm trying to think of how many there would be. I actually don't know that. I actually don't know, but I know there's not a lot. I know
Yeah.
that for sure.
What
Least liked though. Oh, sorry. No, go.
I was gonna say, what's the appealing factor of a steel cage?
That little child in me that's going, that is so cool.
Okay,
Like any
that's fair.
any any match that was a steel cage, it was a big moment. Big moment, steel cage. They can't escape. Ooh,
Yep,
that I've always wanted that, and to have the story where it means something as well, where
100%.
you need that steel cage to be the final piece, the crescendo to your story.
Hmm.
Um, it's pretty alluring in my mind. I'm like, ooh, I want that.
I like it.
Yeah. So, least favorite, as a fan. Um, I've always kind of thought table matches were pretty shitty,
Okay,
like WWE table matches where it's one table and that's the gimmick. Like it's 15 minutes of working around a table.
and then they go through the table.
Yeah, and then it's like, wow, they went through the table. And then you watch a TLC and they go through like 9 tables.
Question: um, Did you ever get a chance to watch Cody versus Big Show in the tables match?
where he
What'd
where
you
he
think
drop
about
kicks
that
him
finish where he drop kicks his leg and his leg goes
and
through
he
it?
falls into it. I thought it
Yeah,
was one of the stupidest finishes I've ever seen,
it was
honestly.
creative though.
It is. It's interesting, but
As a
God,
heel,
it
it made
was.
me pissed off at Cody Rhodes. I was like, "Are you serious?
Yeah, and
You?"
I think I'm remembering it from the mind of I think I might have been 14 years old then when
Yeah,
that happened. So even to today, it still elicited that reaction from me. So you know what? I take it back. I think they did a pretty good job of it.
well, I think from what I've read, it was an accident.
Oh, really?
I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on that. You know how the internet is. I'm pretty sure it was an accident. I think it was one of those. What I read, I'm pretty sure that they didn't know the table was there.
Wow. Good old Vinnie Mac just instantly on the fly. Just yeah, that's the finish.
Yep, it's over.
Don't worry, don't restart it. We don't have the time. Just get him out.
What about least to work?
Least to work in terms of matches. Yeah. Uh, hmm. That's a good question, actually. Because any match you get given is an opportunity. So you
Yeah,
should always be grateful for the opportunity that you're given. I think The thing that keeps coming to mind is any multi-man with over six people,
Okay, because then you're
where
just lost in the shuffle.
there's just too many things, too many chefs, too many moving parts. Everybody wants to do the coolest thing, and you look at the card and you've got 8 to 10. Not all 10 people are going to get all their cool shit in 10 minutes, so you have to deal with that side of it as well. Um, and then, of course, you get in it and then you do three moves, maybe, and that's it for the night. It's
Yep.
a pretty relaxed night. And yeah, like, I think if I had to choose one, it's probably like a super big multi-man match. But as I said, I'm pretty grateful for any opportunity that I'm given. I've wrestled some weird matches in my career. Like I've wrestled what's the correct term for this? A small person. A
The little person.
Yes, is that the correct term?
Yeah,
Is
I
that so?
think
Is
so.
that what I could
Yeah,
use?
and Hornswoggle esque person.
Yes, there we go. That's probably the best way to put it. It was a Hornswoggle-esque person, and I had to lose that match as well. So yeah,
Okay.
I've wrestled some interesting matches, but as I said, I'm pretty grateful for them all.
Okay. I guess a little segue, away from wrestling for a second. What does Mike like to do on the day off? Like he's not wrestling. What does he do for fun outside of this sport?
So I love arcade fighting games.
Okay.
I'm a huge arcade fighting game lover, and I've loved it since I was young. Uh, my dad had an arcade machine with Street Fighter 2 in it. We used to play that back and forth all the time. So I've got stick I bought from Japan like
Okay.
maybe 2, 3 years ago, and I'll take that around and go to local tournaments or go see a friend. Oh, let's do a first to 50, like first to 50 wins. Let's see
Okay.
who's the best. That it gives me a similar feeling to wrestling in terms of the competitive aspect. You got to know the matchup. You got to know what you can do and the best damage that you can give. And when you win and you do something really cool, you get that just oof feeling where you're like, yeah, that was sick. Yeah. I get the same feeling in wrestling as well. So, but yeah, I love arcade fighting games. I used to play a lot of sport. So if anybody ever wanted to, I'd happily pick up a basketball or a Australian rules football. I was about to say football, but it could have meant anything.
Yeah.
So an Australian rules football, and we'll kick that around, or we'll play some basketball. But yeah, but most of the time though, I'm sitting down and I'm playing fighting games. That's just the my little last little happiness that I have. Where I can sit down and I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm 12 years old again. Let's play some games.
100%. I as a person, I'm a huge collector. Like I collect action figures, wrestling memorabilia. Is there anything like that that you get involved in?
Yeah, I collect video games.
Okay.
So I collect consoles and I collect certain franchises that I enjoy. Like I've got a shelf full of boxed Pokemon games sitting on my shelf right there, and they've all skyrocketed in price, especially
Yeah.
since the pandemic. So I've got a little, treasure trove sitting there. But I used to collect skateboards, and I collect obviously the video game consoles, and I started that when I was young. Um, the Nintendo Entertainment System and a Sega Genesis or a Mega Drive, as they're called in Australia. Started off with those two, and then it's like, what can I build from here? How low and how high can I go to build like a complete collection, so to speak? Yeah, I found a crappy Atari 2600 and was like, this is awesome, and like spent 20 minutes plugging it into my TV to try and play like crappy 2600 game. And just like I loved having the shelf of all the consoles there, plugged in, ready to
Yep.
go. Uh, it was one of the cooler things. I can't wait to set it all up again. It's all just sitting in boxes right now, but I just used to love all the quirky, cool little things. Like, how many people do you know? Oh, actually, I shouldn't ask you this because you live in America and it's a lot different. But how many people do you know that has a Nintendo Power Glove?
Nobody.
Oh wow, that was actually
I know
surprising.
nobody actually. Yeah.
Wow, like I have a Nintendo Power Glove, and I bought it because I watched Angry Video Game Nerd on YouTube and thought his episode was hilarious, so I had to buy it because it's a piece of history, and I wanted to try it for myself. So, like, I used to just any cool little gimmicky video game thing, I kind of gravitate towards. Even in other interests or hobbies that I have. Like I used to skateboard quite a lot, and I'm older now, so I'm not going to take the risk of broken my arm twice skating. So I'm not going to take those risks anymore. But I've got a Street Fighter 2 skateboard deck just sitting on my wall right now, and I bought it because. Yeah, I hadn't skated in 5 to 6 years, and I went past the skate shop and I saw it in there, and I just like beelined back towards it and just ran straight for it. So anything that's related to it, I kind of gravitate towards, even if it's something that I'm not that interested in.
Yeah. I could agree. I don't know, man. I immersed myself solely in wrestling. So like anything that's like I walk into. I don't know if you remember like watching like the old Summer Slams or something, and they'd have like the cups that you could get at like it's a 7-Eleven or something. Like I'd go track those down. Like who really needs this little plastic cup that's worth 99 cents? I want the plastic cup that's worth 99
Absolutely. It's going
cents.
straight on my shelf.
Yeah. Do I have them now? No, but I
Ah, damn.
just, it's
But
one of those
you,
things you chase them down.
you got the memory of you
Exactly.
chasing down those cups and sitting
Exactly.
there and maybe drinking a Coke out of it and being like, this is the best.
This is the best. It's got John Cena's face on it. Like,
Yeah. He's giving me one of these to drink my Coca-Cola.
um, I guess we're getting close to an hour. I'll ask you a couple more questions before we wrap it up.
That's cool.
Um, something I noticed nickname is the Slim Reaper. Where'd you get that? That's cool.
So, as I said, excuse me, um, I was a huge basketball fan, and before I wanted to make it big in wrestling, I was determined to make it big in basketball. I was going to be in the NBA. So I used to stat track and follow and be obsessed with basketball, and then I just kind of like transferred that to wrestling, and I just became obsessed with that. But there's a basketball player, obviously, Kevin Durant,
Hmm.
and the media used to call him Durantula, and they used to call him the Slim Reaper. And he hated those nicknames. He hated them. He's like,
Yeah.
don't call me that. Call me KD or call me Kevin or, like, call me that. Don't call me these names. And this was like in 2012, 2013. Everybody in Australia now is getting really cool monikers, getting really cool nicknames to themselves, I'll name drop him again. The smash hit, Joel Bateman. Like that's a really cool moniker.
Yeah.
Another one, the brick shithouse, Jordan Sampson. Like that really really cool monikers to their names. And I remembered that Kevin Durant hates the nickname, and I wanted something that was mine. So I justified it in my mind that, well, he hates it. So It's not his then. It must be mine, even though the media's been calling him it for years.
Yeah.
No, 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 no. That's mine now. And I'm a quite a thin build in terms of wrestling, especially when I came up with the name. And the Chaos character wears a lot of skulls, so the Slim Reaper naturally fit. I'm like, man, this is the perfect name, and it just so happened that I was also listening to a lot of Eminem at the time, and hearing the word Slim Shady over and over in his because I was listening to his earlier albums, hearing that over and over again kind of put it into my mind more. I'm like, all right, maybe the name will work. Maybe, and then I told somebody, and I'm like, what do you think of this name? And they're like, oh, they did what I did to my name. I'm like, oh, I don't know about that. And then half an hour later came up to me and were like, actually, I think that name's pretty cool. Like, so the name actually came because I was a basketball fan and just knew that this person hated that nickname at the time, and it just so happened to perfectly fit my character because
Okay.
I'm a take no names kind of leave it all in the ring wrestler who would wear skulls and try to finish their opponents, So Slim Reaper, yeah, that's me.
I like it. You have
Thank
two
you.
creative names because like sometimes you'll get guys where like their ring name is really badass and then their nickname just doesn't work. Or vice versa. Like their ring name is like super generic and then their nickname is just crazy and is really good. So it doesn't but like Mike Chaos flows, the Slim Reaper is cool and different. So it's like, okay,
Thank you very much, man.
of course.
It took me a few years of self-criticizing to then finally appreciate the coolness that I had created. I'm like, hey, that's actually kind of cool. I would like that. Like, so it's gratifying to hear it from somebody else. Like, thank you very much.
No problem. Next question I'd say is something I like to ask because like wrestling as a whole inspires me. Um, what would you say like your biggest inspirations are when it comes to wrestling?
Ooh. It's early to late 90s All Japan Wrestling.
Okay,
Um, Leading on to the early days of Noah. Um, the Attitude Era of WWE, and the 2013 to 2019, or just before AEW took all their talent, but PWG from 2013 to 2019 were my
I'd say
biggest
the golden era of indie wrestling.
pretty much, yeah, pretty much. That was my biggest inspiration and continues to be my biggest inspiration. Whenever I'm feeling a bit of a brain fog day where I can't think of any spots, I can't think of any ideas, I need something. I chuck on Park versus El Generico at PWG, and it's still to me one of the craziest matches I think I've ever seen in my life. And that just again ignites that flame and just all right, sweet. Here, the juices are flowing now. Let's go.
Mhm. Okay. Um, I know like me, anytime I'm trying to gain inspiration from wrestling, I always will turn on an ECW show. I don't know what it
Yeah.
was about ECW. I mean, me and my dad were talking about it the other day. It's one of those things where you could turn any of them on. They all kind of follow the same format, but everyone, the crowd is into it. You have every kind of wrestling imaginable, whether it's lucha libre, whether it's good tag team wrestling, whether it's something hardcore. and then you got a story somewhere in there. So you get every part of wrestling in one show. And like that's my go-to. Anything
Yeah,
ECW.
yeah. Like I'm upset that I had forgotten ECW because like while it was a great, it was a huge inspiration for me as a fan. Um, I went through and watched back a lot of them when I was about 17, 16. And what like I was like, all right, sweet. There's a lot of great stuff, but I also went, there's a lot of stuff that obviously because I mean Australia, we didn't, we didn't get to see much. We got to see what was available. It was like, they kind of did have their Raw and SmackDown style shows as well. It wasn't just New Jack jumping off the balcony every show.
Yep.
It was, but for all of those moments, there's 1,000 great moments in ECW, and yeah, huge inspiration and a good call on you, for bringing it up.
Well, like uh another part of my YouTube channel, I do action figure like stop motion matches. Like it's
Oh,
kind of
that's
like
dope. That's
and
awesome.
and in the background, that's what I put on. My setup kind of looks like the old Hammerstein Ballroom where ECW was.
Sick.
So like I don't know, I just you mentioned I don't know if it was on camera or off camera, you mentioned Mike Awesome. Um
Yeah.
I loved Mike
Awesome
Awesome as a kid.
Tanaka.
Yeah. Those were my man. I don't know, something about them just hitting each other in the head with chairs over and over and then going through 4 or 5 tables. The
Dude,
Awesome Bomb was insane.
yeah, like so I'd taken a little bit of a hiatus from watching wrestling for a couple of years as I was young, high school is what it is and
Yeah.
people but my mate went, "You have to watch this. This is the greatest match I've ever watched." And he put it on and he self-commentated over the whole thing, and I loved every second of it. And he's the finish, the awesome bomb to the floor through the table.
Hmm.
And I went, "Oh my God!" And he went, "Wait." And then the suicide dive happens, and I went,
Yep.
"That was the greatest spot of all time." And then they just count a quick like 1, 2, 3. They're not even pinning each other. He's just
Not
kind of
he's
collapsed on
on
him.
him. Yep.
Like that, yeah, that match is the greatest match of all time, in my
Those
opinion.
matches, they just go in and it looked like they wanted to murder each other. Like
Yeah,
they'd go
and it
in
was
and
just
go,
a complete consensual murder. Like, yeah, like 4 chair shots, bang, bang, and then Tanaka's like, "Arr!"
and you're like, what? How are you not dead? Like
How are you not like, ow?
CTE is a
That
thing.
yeah,
Like,
it's very real.
oh, um, uh, the last fun question I like to ask, and it's something that has no right answer, is Mount Rushmore. If you
Ooh,
had to pick your Mount Rushmore,
oh
what would you say?
shit. Ooh, 4, man. Um,
I,
all right. Stone Cold, Hogan. Yeah, two easy ones. Two easy ones.
yep.
Shit. Stone Cold, Hogan, Undertaker. Uh, do I respect the past or do I respect what happened? Shit. Look, equal tied fourth, like half a head each for Cena and Ric Flair.
Okay. I'm gonna throw the monkey wrench in and ask why.
Of Cena or Flair.
Or all of them.
All of them? Oh, beautiful. All right.
Yeah.
Stone Cold, greatest money draw of all time. Let's be
Okay.
real. In the time that he did it, biggest draw of all time.
100%.
Uh, Hogan, revolutionized what pro wrestling is. We would not have pro wrestling today, if, or at least in the spectrum that it is, without Hulk Hogan. Like,
100%.
he's the man. Like, and it's funny, we all make fun of it, 10 minutes of hulking up and then a boot and a leg drop, and, it's time to go home. But that man was the greatest thing in pro wrestling for 20 years.
And with that, like I can remember, I grew up with Hulkamania still rules. Like
Oh, wow.
so, like when he came back to WWE, like that's when I grew up, and I still thought Hulkamania was running wild. Like I got
Was it?
picture. My dad has pictures of me in nothing but underwear and sunglasses doing the Hulk Hogan ear thing. So like Hulk Hogan deserves to be there. I don't care what you say. Like
It has to be. He has to
has
be,
to be. His
And
head's
that's what I
on Mount
mean.
Rushmore stuck.
Yeah.
Like you can't
Like,
argue that.
and that's why I'm like, it has to be Stone Cold and Hogan, and it
Hmm.
can't. They can be interchangeable.
Yeah,
They're forever in that spot though.
one or
It
two,
was
they're there.
Yeah. It was hard to leave out like Shawn Michaels, even like
Brett.
Triple H.
Yep.
Like there's a lot of prevalent characters that could be on that Rushmore list. Harley Race, Dusty, even like current generation superstars. Like, I'd have a mind to put Kenny Omega on that Mount Rushmore list. Brock
He has a good
Lesnar,
argument.
yeah, Brock Lesnar has a great argument to be on there too. But Undertaker, his longevity. If LeBron James is getting looked at in the same light as Michael Jordan, and yeah, I'm a big Jordan mark. I will 100%. I got 9 pairs of his shoes sitting there right now. Like, I'm a big Jordan mark, but longevity and the things that he did, the streak was, and like I watched WrestleMania to see the streak
I
for.
cried when it was over. 13-year-old me was in tears.
All right, so little story here, little story here. So I was working at McDonald's at the time, and WrestleMania 30 was happening, and I was recording it. Like, I was either recording it or I was downloading it legally. Wink, but
Legally.
yeah, but it was happening while it was at home and I was on my way to work. And I picked up my phone on the bus to work and I looked at Facebook, and the first thing that pops up is Undertaker loses at WrestleMania. And I'm like, are you for real? This can't be real. No way. And then I found out it was. People had told me at work, instantly, Taker lost. Shut up. I'm taping it at home. But I remember getting home and deleting it and just going, no, I'm not watching that. I'm not watching Taker lose. Like, that is no, not to Brock Lesnar.
No, no. Okay,
So,
with that, continuing on the segue, if there's anybody who should have beat that streak, who do you think
ooh,
should have did it in your opinion?
ooh, damn it! I had me and my mates had all labbed this up for hours and hours and come up to an answer, and I can't remember it. Um, it needed to be someone like, it's funny because we hated on it at the time, but realistically, that's what we were going to. Realistically, who could beat Taker at that time, around WrestleMania 30 time? Who was realistically big enough and had the star power to, or was on an upward trajectory to beat Taker and do something with that? The only name that really comes up is Brock Lesnar.
I mean,
Like,
my argument would have been Bray Wyatt
was he?
because he fought Cena at that year. So if you just take that Cena story arc and put it with Taker, and then everybody made the argument that Bray should have beat Cena anyway. So
That
like
true?
you
Yep.
just have Bray beat Taker, the streak's over. Um, Maybe Taker doesn't get concussed and have to, go on a redemption. Like there's a lot that could have changed if you just played. And like the whole thing was he wanted like Bray at the time was building up a lore of his cult and how he wanted to be the face of fear. It's like why not just take it from the actual face of fear, the Undertaker?
That's a good thought, like a good hypothetical booking scenario there.
Yeah,
Actually, I actually enjoy that because I didn't really think of Bray Wyatt in that situation because I didn't think he was as not popular but prominent. Like he wasn't a main eventer at that time.
maybe not yet, but it could have
I think it was only a year after that though, where he was
where
facing
the
Randy Orton in that weird match with the
no
effects
the
on the ring.
next year he fought Taker. So at 31 he fought
Oh,
Taker
that's right, he did too,
and he lost to Taker. So
and he
like
lost. Yeah,
you could have even ran it back the year later and have him lose if you really wanted to, I guess.
yeah.
But
Hmm.
I don't know. Like everybody says Reigns. I hear Roman a lot. Roman Reigns should have beat it,
Uh,
which I mean, if you want to piss people off, sure.
I was
Like
gonna say, and like he was still very
he was
much
with the
part of the
Shield.
Shield, wasn't he?
Yeah. So I don't think it made sense. But Wyatt would
Yeah.
have, because you could have had like the Wyatts, like Luke Harper and Eric Rowan get involved somehow, some way.
Was
Like you didn't have to do it
was
clean, I would have
was
thought.
Bray a heel at the
Yeah.
time? Was he a full blown heel?
Well, I want to say
Okay.
he was like a tweener. Like
Yeah.
he was
Because I thought a lot of
a
people were
heel
like,
with good intentions.
yeah, like the firelights and stuff. Like
Yeah.
people were doing them back then. So I
He still had the
was like,
rocking chair, the Hawaiian shirts, stuff like that. He was still very much early cult Bray Wyatt.
Bray Wyatt. Ah, ah, it'd be cool if they did it, but think of the heat that Bray Wyatt would have got for beating Undertaker.
A lot.
Yeah, like he gets all that Brock heat, all the heat
Yeah,
that
but
Brock got.
Brock soaked it in and like accepted it, went on to beat Cena. Like, and everybody hated him squashing Cena the way he did. Like
I thought that
16
was, I
German
thought,
suplex. I loved it. I don't know,
I thought it
maybe
was insane.
I like man, I like that style though. The just come in and just
Come in
beat
and murder
the hell out of
somebody.
somebody. Yes.
Yeah.
Like, um,
And it leaves you stunned. You're like, oh my God, did that happen? Like,
I don't want people to take this the wrong way, but growing up, I was young, so I didn't know outside of wrestling. I just know what happened on TV. I love Benoit, like as a character on TV.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And he'd go and
100%.
murder people in the ring.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably not something I should say. He'd go in the ring and he would he'd go in the ring and he was great in the ring. And I just
100%.
suplexes and everything looked real.
The three
Um,
Germans, bang, bang,
yes,
bang. Like,
the headbutt, everything just looked
Crossface with his messed up tooth.
yes,
Ah! You're like, oh man,
and
that man's serious.
yes, and I don't know. I just that style I always liked. Angle is somebody I liked.
Yeah.
They're
Real
the reason
workhorse guys.
I went into to amateur wrestling thinking I was going to go in and be Brock Lesnar.
Oh,
And they're
don't.
like,
That's
that's not
actually
how
cool
this
though.
works. I'm like, well, I got the singlet on, the headgear. What do you mean I'm not Brock
You mean
Lesnar or
I'm
Kurt
not Brock?
Angle? I'm like 90 pounds soaking wet. They're like, you're not Brock Lesnar.
Watch me suplex you into the ground, brother.
No, but that's, I don't know. Bray could have, I feel like he could have, Bray afterwards could have capitalized off the Brock heat.
I think in this scenario that you're talking about, I think out of everybody, Bray Wyatt is probably the best young talent to pick. You got your fresh new talents who can capitalize from it the most. Bray Wyatt probably could have, 100%. But I go back to my previous point. How convincing was it when Brock manhandled Cena? It was hella convincing.
Yeah. Well, it's what you should have thought he did when he came in the first place.
Exactly right. Yeah, but when he faced him in that Extreme Rules match.
Yeah.
But the presence of Brock Lesnar, the fact that he was NCAA world like heavyweight champion, the fact that he was UFC heavyweight champion, he had all this prestige and pedigree around him. And looking back on it, I'm like, it kind of makes sense. Like Brock Lesnar comes in and he just destroys Undertaker, and it's like the start of like Brock Lesnar as we knew for the next 10 years, you know?
Yeah.
And then, yeah, go like the thing that comes to my mind was if any of that stuff didn't happen, we wouldn't have had that insano moment where Goldberg destroyed Brock Lesnar.
No,
I think
that
it was
wouldn't have happened.
Survivor
Yeah.
Series 2017.
It was like
And
a
I'm
minute,
like,
30 seconds.
yeah, and like I'd paused the network at the time, so I'm like, oh, I'm getting like a drink and stuff. I'm getting ready. It's main event time, and I'm like, why is it only like 3 minutes left in the show? Like that's weird. Did someone get injured or something? You know, that's what I'm thinking. And then ding ding ding, Brock turns around, spear straight away. No fucking way. Like, again, the little kid in me came out, and I hadn't had that in so long. So there's part of me that's like, nah, 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 let Brock kill Taker and and let all that happen.
I mean, hindsight, I'd say they did the best thing at the time. So, I mean, as a fan, I can't complain. I watched it. I enjoyed it.
The risk reward that they're looking at, high risk, high reward with Bray. You know, there's a
Yeah.
chance that it flounders, and then you've wasted a once in a lifetime opportunity with Taker's streak. Or you take the safe bet with Lesnar, and it might not go off as well as Bray, but at least Lesnar's a NCAA champ and this, that, the other. And
It's
so,
justified. It's a justified victory.
yes, 100%.
Um,
100%.
you so out of the Mount Rushmore, you still got Cena and Flair.
Theater of Flair. Theater of Flair. So, oh, if I had to choose one, personally, it would probably be Cena. Like
Wow.
that was our Hulk Hogan
Okay.
growing up. Like I'm 28 years old, and when I first started watching in 2005, like John Cena was the man. And I remember I wanted the chain, I wanted the spinner belt,
Yep.
I wore my hat sideways and started wearing basketball shirts and like I thought he was the coolest dude in the world. But that's why I said earlier, I'm like, do I respect the history or do I respect the current, like in my life? Because Ric Flair, you don't have another scope of wrestling without Ric Flair.
No,
Yeah, the WWF was prominent, but Ric Flair was the
he was the
territories.
NWA
Yeah,
and the
he
territories.
was.
That was
Yeah.
Ric Flair.
So it's really hard to choose between those two because both have amazing credentials, both have influenced me a lot in one way or another. But I'll probably have to put Cena there over Flair personally, just because I grew up with Cena and he is my Hulk Hogan.
Fair enough. I can't disagree. I remember when they first made the spinner belt um toy. Um I had my dad track that down and he went like Toys R Us. I remember him going in the store and getting it. It came with a Randy Orton too. I was so pissed off as a kid. I was like, this is John Cena's belt. Why is it coming with a Randy
That's
Orton? Like
That becomes like a Frank
My
Jabrino action figure.
favorite Randy Orton figure at the time. Like after I got it, I was like, this ain't that bad.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I was like, where's my John? Like, it's John Cena's belt. John Cena's the current champion. Like, as a kid, I was just like, yeah, this isn't right. Well, go get
Yeah,
the
there's
John Cena one.
something's fishy. Something's fishy. What's going on? You start figuring out booking at a young age. You're like, wait a minute. And then 3 months later, Randy Orton's the champ. You're like, wait a minute. Did they put that shit out in the future?
um, just to end it off, I like to end off on a good note, and the easiest way to do that is by giving some advice. Do you have any advice for a young wrestler trying to get in the business?
uh, don't be afraid to take risks in any form with professional wrestling, whether it be moveset, whether it be promos, whether it be exploration and going out and traveling and seeing where other promotions are. Don't feel like you can't explore these avenues and don't feel like you can't experience more in wrestling. Take those chances and take the risks because I'm not going to badmouth anybody with this, but I know a lot of people that are happy with a basic move set. And, I grew up on ECW, All Japan, indie wrestling, where they're doing the coolest, craziest moves, and they're getting up and doing nine other things with it. It's not the ender of the match; it's part of the match. So, I you don't want to take a pile driver. Like, what's so scary about it? There's we're wrestlers, we're workers at the end of the day, and we should know how to be able to take these moves the way they should be taken. So explore and don't be afraid and take those risks because you'll evolve as a wrestler faster and more efficiently than anybody else will.
Okay, I like it.
Beauty.
Man, I just want to say thank you once again. It was a great conversation. I believe this is the longest podcast yet, and I had a great time the whole time.
Wonderful, man. I thought I was waffling on a little bit at the start, and I'm like, oh, I hope he's not thinking I'm just some whacked out
No,
dude who's just like that. But
no, I
I'm
like
so
the
happy that you
stories.
are awesome. I'm so glad you enjoyed it, man. And I had a blast. I had a wonderful time. Thank you for having me on, and thank you for sitting here and having a chat with me and just asking me about my career. It means a lot.
I'm sure there's a lot more to talk about. Maybe we can get on here, do another one, cover some stuff we
Absolutely.
didn't cover. Maybe dive into some other stuff, maybe some more fantasy booking stuff.
I like that. I like that, man.
We can figure something out. Maybe we'll get a little bit down the line, jump back on here, have another conversation.
Absolutely, man. Thank you very much. Kind of contacting me all the way from the States. It's an honor and a privilege, and thank you very much. And I can't wait to do another one.
Sounds good. I'll talk to you soon, man.
Beautiful. Thank you, man.